It wasn't too long ago when we did a walk around of this, the 2022 MGHS. Granted, it was red and now it's more like cotton candy blue, but still, it's the same automobile. Now on that walk around, we talked about the exterior, the interior, but barely really touched on its driving dynamics. So today, on this episode of Behind the Wheel, I want to talk about the three things that we missed out on. Number one would be the engine, just exactly how powerful it is and fuel efficient. Number two is the ride quality, the suspension. And number three would be the transmission, the 7-speed dual clutch transmission. Is it all that it's cracked up to be? But before we get to any of that, we will do a refresh, of course, and talk about the exterior and the interior of the automobile and find out if it truly is all sunshine and rainbows because of the price tag that it has for such a large automobile. Or could it possibly be like cotton candy? Truly is sweet, but it might leave you with a cavity. Let's find out. Do you need help purchasing your car insurance? Head on over to AutoDeal.com.ph/car-insurance. Here, you can compare prices and customize your insurance coverage from many of the Philippines' top providers. When you've selected the insurance that's best for you, simply fill out the application and complete the transaction with ease through Visa, MasterCard, GCash, GrabPay, or PayPal, and receive your policy within the next business day. Get the best deal on insurance with AutoDeal. First and foremost, I'd like to reiterate what I said during the walk around, which is it's a good looking car. It truly is. Starting with the front, you've got a floating grille here with some nice chrome accents on it. It truly is quite large and it looks very imposing, doesn't it? As do too the headlamps. These are all LEDs. Your fog lamps are halogen, but the nice thing about the headlamps is that these cuts right here that look like the teeth of a shark or whatnot, these are actually sequential turn signals. It looks pretty good, either during the day or at night. Down the side, you've got about a minimum of 170 millimeters of ground clearance. You've got repeaters on your side mirror, a nice chrome accent up on top and down below. It surrounds the windows. And then you've got roof rails up on top. That's a nice garnish. So is too the chrome on the handles. The door handles rather. You've got disc brakes front and rear, and these, believe it or not, are 18s. Now we spoke about this already briefly, that it's actually a two-tone kind of a number where it's got gray and silver at the same time. And I remarked then that it looks like the wheel of a Porsche. I still believe it does till now. They fit the build just about well, really. Not too skinny, not too thick, just right. And then you move on down to the back, and it's quite large here at the rear, but it does well to somewhat taper the car just a little bit as you come up front. Please forgive the dirt. The weather has been completely unpredictable. We don't know if it's raining, if it's sunny or whatnot. Was that a fly? Yeah, it was a fly. So you've got a shark's fin antenna up on top, your third brake light here, huge LED lights at the back, and these are sequential turn signals as well for the rear. And then you have a rear fog lamp in the form of this teeny tiny little bulb right there. Very cute. Truthfully, could be more form than function because it's very, very tiny. It's very wee. It's like very me. And then also you have twin exhausts found at the rear. These are real twin exhausts, mind you. When you open her up, it's not a lot of space, unfortunately. You're only looking at about 161 liters of space. Now, for a car of this size, if you are looking for much more capacity, I suggest looking at, let's say, for example, the Geely Ascara, because that has a lot more space. This 161 is not very big in the sense that if you were to try to put, say, a buy-and-box or an Alice buy-and-box, it definitely will not close. You would have to take the tonneau out to make sure that the box fits. How and where you put the tonneau, however, there is no proper storage for it. But if you do take it out, let's say leave it at home or tuck it in properly, you will be able to close this guy. Obviously, when you fold the 60-40 split row in front, or the second row rather, then that multiplies exponentially.
Now, the rear seats, I gotta be honest with you, it's really something special because there is literally a lot of room back here. Here, this HS has an even longer wheelbase than that of the RAV4, which is actually pretty comfortable enough. But don't get too excited because the price difference is like $1 million. And well, there are a lot of differences to the RAV4. But anyway, back to the HS. So there's a lot of leg room, right? Look at this. That's my normal driving position. And the headroom, even though that there is a panoramic roof, I say even though, but it's actually a nice feature. Even though that there's a panoramic roof, there's a lot of space. Whether you have a third passenger or not, the tunnel's actually pretty low. The seats feel really good and you can literally fall asleep back here. It's that comfortable. Features back here include, you've got 2 USB ports found down here, okay, and then you've got your air vents here. And then in the center, you've got a pair of cup holders that appear out of nowhere. I like that. I like that because, now I've mentioned this before, there are some armrests that just have cup holders that stick out. Here, it's covered and it's nice because then you can use the armrest and not really like put your hand or let your hand fall inside. It's really just a nice touch. And then an extra cubby hole found down there. Also on the door, you also have bottle holders that can carry even up to large flasks with ease, truly. The piece de resistance back here would obviously, as I mentioned already, the panoramic roof, which isn't really great inside the city, but today it does actually give a very nice view. Now, the business end of the HS actually, to be honest with you, I like it. I like it a lot because it's very calming, it's very soothing, and it's very mature. Granted, there are still some scratchy plastic that you will find here and on the door as well, but predominantly, it's actually soft touch. Right? And then there's the one thing that I absolutely love about this car. If you're looking at it from that vantage point, it looks kind of messy, right? But because you can cover everything up, it just looks absolutely neat. I like it. It's clean. Almost to say that you'd think that this car isn't Chinese. It's more actually Japanese because it's so clean and refined. Which brings me to the 3 cool points that I love about this MG HS. Number 1 is, well, there is Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, but I love the fact that when you plug in your phone to use Apple CarPlay, immediately you can tell that the text is actually quite big. And I like that because you don't lose your concentration trying to figure out exactly where it is that you are, especially if your eyes are on the road and you're traveling and then you gotta look here. You don't have to squint. Now, I guess that's a senior thing kind of a thing. Wait, I'm not senior, am I? But I like the fact that the text is big. I do love that. Number 2 is the fact that inside this car, there is an air filter found right here. You can't see it, but there. It's an air filter and the air comes out in the back. Now, this is not MG proprietary stuff. It's actually a third party. So those filters in there that you change will depend obviously on the air quality that you have, whether your windows are down or up and whatnot, or if you vape or smoke inside the car, it's entirely up to you. But the fact is that there is an air filter built into the car. That's actually cool. And the number 3 cool thing is the instrument cluster. It's a massive 12.1-inch display, but as Jack will show you once we close the door, all the information that you need is actually there. Your speedometer, your tachometer, your fuel consumption, how far before you have an empty tank kind of a thing. You don't necessarily have to rifle through the buttons and the menus. You can, but the fact is that most everything that you need can be found right there on the screen in one go, and that I absolutely love. Its exterior, interior, and features, to be honest with you, are all well and good, including its price as well. The thing though is, it's in its drive that I found a few kinks in its armor. Let's go for a drive and I'll explain to you exactly what they are. But before we do, make sure that you like and subscribe to our channel because, well, we like creating these videos just for you. It's not the engine because, truthfully, that's actually plenty good. You're looking at an inline-4 gasoline-powered turbo
that's made it to a 7-speed DCT. But to be honest with you, they call it a TST, but it's really just a DCT. It produces 166 horses and 250 Newton meters of torque. Now, in terms of fuel efficiency, it's actually not bad. It holds its own in the sense that in moderate traffic inside the city, it does about 9.3 kilometers per liter. A little bit better is the Ascara at about 13. On the highway, I found that I was able to push it to about, in normal driving, 16.5 kilometers per liter. Now, obviously, the Ascara did much better than that, but that is also a mild hybrid system. This does not have a mild hybrid system. It's not naturally aspirated because it's got a turbo, but it's an all gasoline powered engine. So the engine isn't the issue. No, not at all, because that's actually plenty good. Ride comfort and suspension also is not an issue because, truth be told, it's a very, very comfortable car. The suspension coupled with these seats is actually pretty amazing. The seats are not, they're not American, to say that they're not like large American SUVs where you feel like you're sitting in a sofa. And it's also not a very Japanese car where it's tight and very straight to the point, like an arrow kind of a thing. No, it's a good balance in between. The suspension is actually pretty darn great. It sits well, is what I'm trying to give. There's a lot of give. Whether you're going over a pothole or a speed bump, the front carries the car very well and sets it down gently. The rear, there's even a better give to it. It sits down even more. Not to a point where you're going to feel like you're going to bog down or bog on a speed bump or anything like that. No, not at all. It's just that it feels like it's very forgiving, is what I'm trying to get at. To the point where, I guess, an example of it would be like if a basketball player were to jump, when they land, they're immediately ready to move side to side, right? This car isn't exactly like that. It's more of when you exercise and you do a jump squat. When you land, your legs give. It's better for your knees, but doesn't mean exactly that you're ready to go in a different direction immediately. So that's the difference. This type of suspension is sort of like a jump squat. The trade-off, however, is the fact that it's a little bit softer. So in the sense that if you want to take corners at speed, you will feel that there is more body roll in this particular crossover. But nonetheless, I should say that it's still a very comfortable drive and ride for all the passengers involved. So it's not the suspension. It's the transmission, to be honest with you. That's the chink in its armor. The 7-speed DCT, or TST, as again they like to call it. See, it's very sluggish. It's very behind, so to speak. A couple of examples is when you're in traffic, it has a hard time keeping up with the car directly in front of you. And this is in crawling traffic. I find myself having to step on the accelerator just to be able to keep up with the slow and small gap that there is in front of me. But when I do, the car immediately jumps and moves forward. So then I have to immediately get off the accelerator and jump onto the brakes. And truth be told, I feel like this might sound insulting, but I feel as if that I am a newbie driver learning how to drive a manual transmission car for the very first time. It feels very jerky just to be in traffic. The ride itself is okay, but the fact that when you're trying to keep up in traffic, it's very difficult. On the highway, it's not an issue. But again, in traffic, which you're going to spend most of your time inside the city, inside traffic, that's where the issues come out. Then there's also the issue of the automobile, it kind of slips, really. Slips in the sense that when I'm on an incline, and again, in traffic, and I found this on one of the side streets that leading up to EDSA, I found that as I'm coming to a slow crawl, eventually coming to a stop, but not exactly hitting the brake or jamming on the brakes, the car actually rolled back, which I found quite scary. So if not for jamming on the throttle or getting on the brakes immediately, I could have hit the car behind me, which is a very scary thought. However, if you do come to a complete stop, obviously the car will hold, and of course there's an auto hold to it. But that lack of confidence where you're slowing down when you're coming up to an incline, it's just, it's something very, very unexpected. And to me, it's enough to get you thinking twice. I will, however, say that even if you do decide to think twice on getting the HS, there is one very, very, very large saving grace. actually very small depending on how you look at it, because the sticker price on the MGHS Trophy is 1,308,888 Philippine pesos. It's in the region of other available options like the Geely Ascara, which we mentioned. It's a mild hybrid with a bit more space. However, about 300,000 Philippine pesos more. However, it draws closer to the Maxus D60, which in fact is a 7-seater. But the HS can be argued is still 30,000 Philippine pesos more affordable. Now at that price, I'm not saying that you can overlook the faults of the transmission. But truth be told, in general, as a whole, the ride comfort of the car is absolutely amazing. And anyone, and I do mean anyone, can fall asleep at the back. And to sweeten the deal for you, check this out. If you go to AutoDeal.com.ph right now, you can save as much as 100,000 Philippine pesos on this MGHS. Now, like its color, that's actually a pretty sweet deal.